Gisue, a typical introvert who drew adult manga just to live by, meets someone way out of his reach, but something very unexpected takes place as she is mentally very strange and refuses to leave. The story begins where we see an average apartment. Inside, we meet our protagonist, the introvert everyone doesn't care about. Right after his high school, he managed to rent this place, as it became difficult for him to even interact with his own parents. He seemed to be busy with a scene from a manga, but it turns out he has confidence in himself for not being a good drawer. His life is miserable. He is scraping change just to be able to live in this shabby apartment, which has a 30,000 yen rent. Despite all his effort, he relies on his second job a lot as well. Being able to buy a 20,000 yen stove was a blessing for him, but without any air conditioner, he is sure that he will die because of heat stroke. Now, he was originally a passionate manga fan and made his own manga. However, it didn't gain any viewership or public attention. Now he tries to get lonely shut-ins to buy his disgusting adult manga that provides him enough to live by, but he does sometimes write original work as well. As his inner reflection goes wild, his eyes widen to see that this month 3 people downloaded his adult manga, and this puts him in a good mood. His art style is gloomy. That is the reason his original work was never appreciated. And not only that, his drawings were also pretty bad, but complaining about life is nothing new for him, and he himself knows that he has no worth or value to anyone, and perhaps he will die off like this. He strolls outside for some fresh air, and his attention is caught by a cloud which somewhat resembled poop. Quickly, he takes out his old phone to take a picture and share it on his empty blog that no one cares about, but suddenly his doorbell goes off. He notices and reflects that he doesn't have any delivery nor does he have any pending television bill, but as he opened the door, he meets a beautiful girl with golden hair, wearing a jacket in the scorching heat, and glaring at him with her almost dead and empty eyes. As a few seconds go by, both of them just stare at each other, and he wonders to himself if she is a boy or girl. She breaks the ice and asks him if he is Gisue Seijin. His eyes widen to hear this, and the girl starts to search her bag and brings out a notebook that she holds in front of her and tells him, "Are you the author of this manga right here?" With a serious tone, she tells him that she is in love with his manga, internal and external development. As he reflects and recognizes the cover, he is sure that it is in fact his manga, and he remembered that no one really bought a physical copy since it was never that successful. The mysterious girl tells him that this masterpiece had no physical copies anywhere. As he realizes that she is in fact a scary fan, but is also his first, she repeats her question about him being the author, and something ticked him off. How in God's good earth was she able to pinpoint his exact location with ease? The girl starts to mention how she tracked him. On one of his online blog posts, he took a picture where in the background his window was visible, and she was able to locate a supermarket near him and just slowly managed to find the opposing building, and with a threatening tone, she asks if he is the author she is looking for. Gisue panics inside his head, thinking about the obsession level to find someone with such details, and he figures that it is best to just answer and sign whatever she wants and send her off for good. He is sure that she won't go anywhere until her answers are found out by her. He replies with a firm tone that he is Gisue Seijin, and the girl's face brightens up to hear this, and her mysterious aura disappears, and she starts to praise his work, letting him know that she has been reading this manga for a long time and has gone through it hundreds of times, and she always wondered what type of person the author of this manga is. He thanks her, thinking to himself that this interaction is now over and he can just go back now. The girl kept staring at him, without moving an inch. With a shaking voice, Gisue asks her if she lives far and if she is going to go back, and the girl tells him that she lives in Tottori. Gisue is left speechless to hear this, as Tottori was very far from where he lives, and asks if she took a train to come here, and she replies that she took a bus and started to travel around 8 p.m., and arrived here at around 8 a.m. Altogether, it took her 12 hours. As she said this, she told him that her back hurts. With a wary look, he asked her if she had anything else she wanted to do here, but interrupting him, she tells him that she came all this way just to meet her favorite author. Mocking himself, He asks if he was that great of a person for her to travel all this way just to meet a nobody, and the girl just kept staring at his face. The glare was so intense that it felt like she was staring at his soul. She didn't blink or make any other action except standing there still, and with a weak and trembling voice, he asked if she wanted to come inside. Exclaiming thank, she rushes inside, without a worry of anything. Deep down, Gasui was wary of her, thinking that she is the type of girl who would just go inside without any question, and was slightly happy to have a girl as well. With slight blushes, he stood there, and the girl asked him if she could take off her jacket, and he offered to help. As she was taking off the jacket, Gasui saw something that left him speechless and shocked. On the wrist of the girl were deep marks of harm that indicated that she herself inflicted them, and perhaps she was at such a stage of life where she just wanted to end everything. As his entire perspective changed, he tells her to sit wherever she would like, and both of them sit down, without a single word. Both kept staring at each other, and finally that girl introduces herself as Saitu Megumi, and Gasui tried to hold a conversation, but the girl kept saying yes and asked if he was busy drawing manga. He points his finger, telling her that if she is a fan, she should know that he draws adult manga as well. He said this with a firm tone. She replies that she once tried to read that type of content as well, but it wasn't very interesting to her. It seemed like she had no intention of leaving, and silence filled the room, and she tells him not to mind her, and keep drawing what he was doing since it is his job, and puts food on the table. Hearing this, he tries to maintain his dignity, and tells her that this is just for pocket change and nothing else. Suddenly, all the cheerful talks end as she asks him a serious question, whether he was bullied or not. She reflects that in his manga, she feels as if she is the main protagonist, and every single thing is related to her. She was not bullied, rather she was left alone all the time. No one knew if she was there or not, and she herself was in a space where she was there, but no one was ready to acknowledge her existence. She starts to flip the pages and tells him that in his manga, the main protagonist was able to find a happy ending, which in her view was a disgrace as that is nothing like reality. She has no happy moment in her life, and in the end of her life, she will surely have the saddest last moments. Hearing all this, he remembered the thing that he just saw on her wrist and replies that he was also not bullied, rather, he was isolated so much that he was not able to make any friend and wondered to himself if he even existed as well. Their conversation starts to take shape, but she adds and tells him that she is very hungry, and both end up eating ramen in the middle of their talk. Gasui was somewhat troubled by her constant stares. To conclude, Megumi is an 18-year-old dropout, and it seems like she is dangerous, and secretly just holding on to her life. And there she said something very disturbing and painful. Since teachers and students ignored me throughout, I just quit school, and after 1 week of attendance, I thought of hanging myself right there. He sat down to draw, she stood right next to him and stared at everything that he did. With a serious tone, she asked for his real name, and with slight blushes, he tells her that he is Yokoi Taku. And Megumi started to call him by his first name, and continued to mutter it with a smile but pitch-black dead eyes. It seemed like she enjoyed being with him and would repeatedly lean on him. Gasui was somewhat happy and wary at the same time, and he asked her if she wanted to go somewhere, adding that she came all this way to Tokyo, surely there must be some places that she is interested in visiting at least once. And with a cold tone, she tells him that there is literally nowhere that she would like to go, and she hates going to places where there are a lot of people. With a trembling voice, he asked her if she was just going to stick at this house for the time being and not get bored, and she replied that she was enjoying a lot by just watching him draw. He added that maybe she would like to play a game since he had no TV or anything, and the room itself was pretty tight for the both of them to easily stretch out their legs. She told him that watching him was much more enjoyable than playing a game, and she kept staring at every single thing that he was doing, without budging. It seemed like she was observing a pet of hers. At night, Gasui noticed that it was time for him to do the newspaper delivery, and told Megumi to decide if she was going to go back home or not. As he told her that he would be leaving, she remained silent despite him asking if she knew when her bus would leave, and with a depressing voice she muttered to herself if she should leave. It seemed like she didn't really want to go, and Gasui added that he must have thought that she had some sort of arrangement, and she told him that there was nothing that she had to do. With a clear voice and determined expression, she told him that she couldn't go home. Understanding everything, he told her that she would have to wait here while he made the delivery, and she told him that she could just kill time with her phone. It was clear that she wanted to stay there, and Gasui himself considered himself to be just a little too lucky, adding that it was his first time being together with a girl this long. She quickly reminded him that she needed to message her parents as well, and as she sat down and tapped on her phone, it was almost time for him to leave. He saw her off, and as he made his way down and brought out the bicycle, he glanced at his window, and Megumi was waving to him. Somewhat, he was a bit happy for her to be there, but deep down he was worried that she was going to end herself there. With an annoying sound of Gasui's motorcycle, he made deliveries one by one, and by the morning, he was exhausted and ready to just sleep in and rest. But as he saw his window, he saw Megumi standing there waiting for his return. Seeing this, he had a burst of happiness inside, realizing that someone was actually waiting for his return. As he made his way back home, Megumi was so happy that she found it hard to contain the happiness, and waved back and forth at him. The first thing they both said to each other were kind exchanges of greetings. Hearing this, Megumi told him that there was no need for Gasui to greet her. He asked if she was able to get a good look at the surroundings and neighborhood since it was a good time to venture outside, but with a serious tone, she told him that she waited for him there the whole time. His eyes widened as she was standing there for hours upon hours, and he asked if she came back inside, and she replied that she had no idea when he was going to return. It seemed that Gasui was late, and he reminded her that he told Megumi that he'd be back by 5, and she replied that he never said that. Instead, he told her that he'd be back by 2. As it seemed like Megumi still had troubles inside her head, with a troubled voice, he apologized. As they sat down, it was clear as day for Gasui to realize that she was sleepy, and all the standing and waiting took a toll on her. Gasui got up to prepare some futon for them. He told her that he only had one futon, and she could have it since her back hurt, and he would be sleeping with a blanket. Gasui noticed that throughout their conversation, she would always answer with yes and no, and she never used any phrases like I will think about it or what should I do. Both lay there, and Gasui decided to face the other way to avoid awkwardness, and Megumi just kept staring at him from behind. Although Gasui was shy, he enjoyed it somewhat. In the morning, Gasui got up all sleepy and glanced at Megumi, who was sleeping soundly without any worry in the world. As he noticed, he could not believe that such a pretty girl was sleeping right next to him, and he decided to check his mobile to find a comment on his empty blog. A person was telling him to do more NTR manga. As he thanked him for his previous purchases, he decided to work on that, but he couldn't help but notice that there was a strange smell coming from where Megumi was sleeping. He strolled around her to check, and suddenly he saw something that shook his core completely. There it seemed like Megumi was bleeding from her hand. Quickly, he flipped the blanket away to check, and there she was lying after hurting herself, bleeding intensively. He panicked and tried to wake Megumi up, and she grunted in pain. He told her, "Why did you do it?" and with a shaking voice yelled that he must call the ambulance. Megumi, with a firm tone and serious face, told him that this much wouldn't kill her or anything. As he calmed down a bit, she asked him to just help her with some band-aids. Carefully, he patched her up, and she apologized and asked him if she had done something that she should not have done, and added that he had been quiet. Her reason for attempting that was simple. Yesterday, she was so happy that it was ages ago that she ever felt this way, and the time she was enjoying was about to end because she was about to fall asleep, and this caused her to have flashbacks of the past that made her anxious. She was sure that the moment she were to wake up, there would be nothing but painful memories waiting for her. So Megumi told him that she thought it would be better to just end herself while she was enjoying herself the most. He could not imagine the things going on inside her head, and with a painful and sad voice he told her that he could not picture the person he just met would do something so horrible thing. And she repeated, "Tells him sorry," and told him that she did this because if there is a time when she could not keep it up anymore, and have no other choice but to end it all, she would want to use a blade that she is familiar with. As Gisui was stunned to hear these words, she bowed down her head and apologized. As he observed her, he told her that it was time that she contacted her family, and she told him that they would just end up putting her in a hospital, and he told her to hand over her mobile, and he would take care of it. Gisui was shocked that he could not help but slump down from the thing he witnessed. He stretched his hands out, and she grabbed them. He himself reflected that he had flashbacks that were so painful that it made him want to end it all as well, but there were many potholes in the way that made him rethink and strive for living, and he was always fearful of such a thing. However, this all does not work on her, as she is ready to just get up and do it tomorrow. As he stared at her, he knew that it would do no good to just blame her. It is obvious that she was pushed to this point, and giving any parental advice will be a serious bad thing. Gisui gets up, and with a harsh voice he told her that when he and she would decide to sleep, all she is to do is sleep and nothing else. With a fearful voice, she replied, "Okay, we will just sleep together." And Gisui realized that he needs to think carefully of every step he takes now, or she would just let herself bleed out. He is ready to monitor her when they are sleeping together, and he starts to imagine himself being inside her shoes and lists out things that she could be going through, from self-hatred to depression and other serious mental things. And with a sigh, he controls himself and tells her to change the topic for now and tells her that he will be going to the supermarket, and would she like to hang around? Later, both of them walk side by side, and he told her that it is pointless to talk about it, as it is best to take it slow, and it is very refreshing to take a small walk when you are feeling down. He decided to make her feel at home, and he started to list the things that he enjoys and does. With a finger point, he shared that over there is a swimming pool that he loves and asked if she can swim as well, and she replied that she has never swam, and he broke the ice and shared that he takes a bath there for just 460 yen every time to save a ton of money. Megumi exclaimed to find this out. As their conversation began, she shared that her brother have expensive showers as well that he enjoys, and their talk leads Megumi to share that she brought 30,000 yen with herself for food, and with a serious tone asked him if he would like to buy a shower head for himself. Shocked to hear this, that she is ready to just hand out all her money, an awkward silence fills their atmosphere, and he reminded her that they are here for shopping, and they started to move. On their way, a child was playing with a dog, and the dog changed its direction and ran towards Megumi. As she noticed it, she kicked the dog hard, that it flew over and landed while grunting in some pain. Gisui was blown away by this, and the little kid ran off to her mother complaining about what Megumi had just done. And she just stood there without saying a single thing, with an angry expression. After the shopping, they got back home, and immediately, Megumi started to wipe her shoes. As she started to share the reason why she can't stand dogs, in her parents' house they had an indoor dog when she was little, and there was a cage. The cage was big enough to hold a child, and Gisui already got an idea of what she went through. Whenever Megumi would mess up anything, even if it was a small thing, her father would throw her in the cage, and every time she would be locked in, she had to crawl into the cage. The dog would always have a look of triumph as if it was laughing at her, and her luck, the dog would easily take her place and just forget her, stinking there for days. She adds that people are so condescending. You'd think that humans would be treated better than a dog, but for Megumi that was never the case. In that house, she was treated and considered to be lower than a dog. Gisui asks her if she hates dogs, and with a sad voice she tells him that she loathes them, and whenever they would make a face of laughing, it would make her sick, and the way they breathe as well. As Gisui heard this, it was clear that her parents started the unbearable pain that she endured all her life, and he asks if she kicks them all like that, and she replies that she only does that if they are too close to her. As she said this, she shows her scars and tells him that one time she kicked another dog, but it was bigger and bit her hard, which even left her with a scar. As she wiped her shoes, he asks if she is done with the shoes, and she replies that she needs to wipe it harder for at least 24 minutes. It seemed that whenever she would kick a dog, she cleans her shoes for 45 minutes. Gasui tells her that he will be going to draw manga if she is going to be that busy. As he sat down, he remembers that today he was going to focus on the theme that has been selling good, NTR. Strangely, he himself is not sure what that means and gives it a search, finding that NTR is the feeling of pleasure one would get when their loved one is stolen away, and Gasui exclaims that this genre is too deep and evil, but to put food on his table, he needs to do this. And time went on, and he draws panel after panel, only to sense that Megumi was standing all this time behind him, sniffing him. As he found her there, he panicked and asked her how long she had been standing there for, and she replied that for around 10 minutes. She praises his artwork, telling him that the pattern and style of the pen has improved a lot in these books as compared to the original works. He gets back to his work, and as always she stood there staring at every single thing that he was doing, and asked Gasui if he was ever going to work on the original project. He spins around and tells her that they are just not profitable, and he has barely been able to make a dime from them, but Megumi interrupts him, saying that she will just buy everything that he will print. He reflects that there were only 2 buyers of his manga, and both were her, and he starts to point out how his newer project didn't seem to affect her in any way. She ends all the arguments by saying that it is really painful to be different in today's society, and Gasui himself was somewhat touched by these words. He looked back at her and told her that there might be something that she can enjoy. As she exclaimed, Gasui sat her in front of the computer, and she was so invested in the story that she kept reading every single line of it. Suddenly, she let out a swear at one of the characters in the story and angrily told him to get lost, and continued to read. After some time, it seemed that the story moved her to tears. As it seemed like she finished reading it, she decided to reread it once again and started to yell her inner thoughts. Time went on, and while shouting, she leaned on him, telling him that she is ready to buy everything, and he can take all the money that she has. It seemed that she read it 6 whole times. He tells her that it will be available in a week, so until then she needs to wait around, and the thought of waiting a week was very immense on her, and she starts to scratch her head aggressively, telling him that she is going to go crazy during that waiting time. He tries hard to calm her down, and tells her that he might be able to finish it before Friday. As Megumi heard this, she started to meditate and tell herself, "I'll try to calm down until Friday," and consistently tells herself to have patience. Out of curiosity, he asks her if she ever read the latest publications, and there are many good manga there as well, and she replies that she did read many others, but all of them didn't really resonate with her. To sum up, she tells him that all of them feel like worlds where there is nobody like her. She tells him that the manga that he recommended on his blog were boring as well, and she felt that they were recommended by a different person. It seemed like she was examining him throughout, and she would always reject anything that is different from her. As he started to work again, he asked her if coming here was expensive, and she replied that the fare of the bus was only 3,000 yen, and he was surprised to hear this, adding that she traveled for almost half the price, and she brought out a welfare and healthcare notebook which allows her to pay half. As he took the notebook, he checked and noticed that there was a diagnosis for a mental disorder, and that proved the fact that she is very unstable. As he told her that she can return whenever she wants, with a beautiful expression, she tells him that she will be staying here and won't be going home. As Gasui realized that she won't be going back soon, he pondered to himself if she ever says polite words like, "please," or if it is okay. Her regular routine continued. She stood there completely unfazed and stared at everything that he did. She would always smile at him as he worked. Finally, he tells her that it is pretty hard to draw and write the story when she would just stare at him, and he asks her to look the other way if it is okay. As she started to look at the wall, he exclaimed that what he meant was that she shouldn't be so impatient for the manga and try doing something else. After Gasui delivered the newspaper, it was time to sleep, and Gasui tells her that it will be only 1 futon, and that she will not harm herself in any way. As they both lay down, and she smiled all the way, Gasui himself was having double thoughts but reminded himself that this is for monitoring purposes only. And as she slept, she clung to him like a baby, so deep asleep that she thought of him as a pillow. The next day, his whole body was completely sore, and he couldn't move his back without severe pain that would go throughout his body. Gasuie glanced back at Megumi, and she was sleeping in the most uncomfortable pose, which left him wondering if she could even breathe that way. Her smartphone rang, and immediately she got up and answered it. Her parents were checking up on her, and with a cold tone, she replied to them and told them that she was alive. Now, this was her greeting and everything else. Without any permission, she also lets them know that she will be staying over at the place she is at, and in the next moment, things get serious, and with a loud voice she tells her mother that if she were to end everything, it would all be Dad's fault. After saying these hurtful things, she ends the call, and Gasuie, on the other hand, was shocked listening to all of this. She looks at him and greets him. As she was about to do anything else, a severe headache just starts to kill her. It was so intense that she started to make troublesome expressions that made it clear that the pain was almost unbearable. He asks if she is holding on and if there is anything that he can do, and she replies that she hasn't had any medication since yesterday, and if she doesn't take them soon, this headache would continue. He gets her the medication and also fills a glass of water with it. As she starts to grunt from the pain, she was barely holding on. He asks if the effects would take a long time, and she replies that it would take around 30 minutes. After hearing this, he asks her in a gentle voice if he could help her with anything, and in the very next second, she hugs him and starts to cry. She squeezes him hard, and he starts to pat her head as well. He helps her calm down and move on from the pain. After 30 minutes, she was back to normal. She lets him know that she is normal for now, and the pain would not affect her morning. He inspects her medicine, and they were pretty serious, and he reflects on how she hasn't taken them for 2 days and expects everything to work out for her. She lets out a beautiful smile and thanks him for all his help and adds how his patting made it easy for her. Now he looks at her with slight blushes, and after freshening up, he starts to draw his manga. She asks him if he has decided a title for his original manga, and he replies that sea turtle is something that interests him. He adds that over 99% of sea turtle children don't make it to tomorrow and are eaten and never get the chance to see anything else. He also shares about how even though they live by their childhood, their adulthood is just as difficult as one could imagine. Now sea turtles are on top of the food chain, and for this reason, they have dozens of predators aiming for them, and even in adulthood, they don't make it to tomorrow. As she exclaims, he ends his explanation by telling her that sea turtles are fated to experience extreme hardships the moment that they are born, and their overall destination is death. As he says this, Megumi thinks about something and tells Gasuie that she is surely a sea turtle herself. He also tells her the same thing. She gets up and asks him if he ever had thought of doing terrible things to himself, and in her eyes was a pitch-black void. This sentence hits him right in the center, and he replies and tells her that he has never thought of that in the first place. She follows through and asks him if he wants to live a long life. Now each question of hers had weight behind her words, and he himself knew that he can't just joke around with them. He glances at her and tells her that after seeing Megumi, something has changed inside him, and deep down, he is a bit happy to help someone not do the unfortunate. Since his manga helped her overcome some of her problems, he wanted to tell her that he would like to continue saving lives through his work. And that is also why he has been fine and accepting the fact that he won't make a dime from his original mangas. As she asks if he is really going to do this, he replies and tells her that he is testing everything that he can. She looks at her arm and asks if he is going to target people like her in these manga, and he gives her a vague answer. For him, if his work managed to help out a single person, that just motivates him to live another day much longer and healthier than before. She stares at him for a minute and replies by telling him that he is quite the mystery, and he reflects how she is much bigger mystery than him. She tells him that his ideology would unlikely work on her, and when she is about to do the unthinkable, she would always become a different person, and all her senses disappear. She describes her painful reality, and how everything fluttery and happy is just unpleasant for her, and as she stares, things become blurry and uneven for her. As she explained her complex and sad condition, Gasuie thinks of something for a minute, and in the next second, he browses through his tables and he starts to write something on a paper. As Megumi watches him, in the next second he shows her a paper, and on it, he had wrote something to let her know that she must tell Gasuie about everything. As she looks at his weird actions, Gasuie sticks it to a wall, and with a gentle voice, he tells her that Megumi needs to make this a habit of hers and never let anything stay in her mind. As she listens to his words, he kept going on and on about how she must make this a habit to stare at this paper whenever she would feel like doing something or if she ever feels darkness and blurry vision. He tells her to keep looking at it until it becomes clearer. As he explained this idea to her in simpler terms, deep down he was worried if she would read it in an inappropriate, different way or if she would even agree to this in the first place. Megumi immediately looks at it, and examines it for a second, and surprisingly, she agreed to do whatever he told her to do. She asked if she could also call him during his work hours, and he was about to refuse, but he reflects on how this could be a lapse of judgment for her, and she could even do things to herself. He immediately leans over her and tells her that no matter what happens, she can call him at any time. As she blushed slightly, after this she sits down, and with a bossy tone, she tells him that she wants a bath. It seems like she sniffed herself, and she was drenched in sweat. As much as he wanted to use the swimming pool, he couldn't take her with him, and as he weighed his options, she gets up and tells him that they must buy a basic shower no matter what. He jolts a bit, and reminds her that this is his place, and there are still no plans for him to have her for a long period of time. She insists despite this, and lets him know that a basic shower is her present to him. Now the determination in her eyes was visible, as in the next second, she just stares, without budging or doing anything else. Her stares were so intense that Gasuie knew she was glaring through his soul, and refusing her was never an option. As he faces the other way, he lets her know that they can have one, and immediately she gives herself a thumbs up in excitement. Now, just as she wanted, Gasuie orders the shower set, and it was set to be delivered in 2 days. Today they were planning on visiting the public bathhouse. As the two walked, he asked Megumi if she is fine with a public bathroom, and she replies that it is a must in their condition. Gasuie tells her the secret to all men and shares how men can usually last a few days without a shower and can adjust, and Megumi replies to him, and tells him that women are more cautious of hygiene than men. As she blushed a little, she begins to walk ahead of him, and Gasuie totally misheard her. From ahead of them, a person was cycling towards them, and as Gasuie greeted him, that dude asked both of them if they are on a lovely date, or something. Now both of them glance at each other, and Gasuie decided to brush him off with a complex answer. Now that dude just stayed there for 10 seconds and immediately tells Gasuie that he needs to go, and as he waves off his non-existent friend of some sort, with a cold voice, Megumi lets Gasuie know that she hates him. Now she said this as he was introducing that man who was his senior, and he glances at Megumi, and she began to explain how his eyes were creeping her out and kept going on about how she doesn't like him. He pleads over and begins to shower her with nice things, but she specially pointed out his things that she found unpleasant. Now, as he realizes that she can't be persuaded under any situation, there was a lot of work to do. At the bathhouse, the staff hands them the towel and soap. He lets her know that he would wait an additional 15 minutes just for her, and a few seconds later, he jumps into the desirably warm water. Gasuie lets out a big sigh of relief and relaxation. Although he knows that Megumi is more complex than ever, he couldn't help but notice that there are some feelings for her in him that he is having a hard time understanding, and as he thinks more about her, he shakes himself off. On the other side, a woman enters with her naughty little kid who began to run around the bathhouse. Just as the boy began to run like crazy, he hits his elbow on Megumi's head, and it continued, and that snotty brat does that again, and this time she felt the pain. Now this was just the trigger, and as the boy kept running around, Megumi ends up making him fall. And that brat falls down a few feet away. As his mother notices this, she dashes to check on her son, and sure enough, he was bleeding from his nose. That woman immediately grabs Megumi's hair and screams at her, but in the next instant, that woman's head jolts, and Megumi herself slapped her with all her force. Now the slap was so satisfying and loud that everyone around them heard it loud and clear, and as she glances at her, the woman begins to shout for the staff. As Gasuie exits the bath, He could only wonder about the people he came across, and in front of him, there was a crowd of people gathered, and Megumi was also standing there. It seems like she did something, and Gisui immediately sensed that something had surely happened. He makes his way across the crowd, and they asked who he was, and he introduces himself as Megumi's companion. Then an old woman explains to him how Megumi tripped a woman's child and even slapped the lady hard. He glances at Megumi, and sure enough, she was sulking and didn't say a single thing. That lady with the kid begins to state details about how her son could have broken a nose or something, and he tells her that it was Megumi's first time in a bathhouse. He begins to apologize to her, and he ends up making very random excuses and tells the bathhouse owner that he slapped Megumi earlier, and Megumi ended up taking out her frustration and anger on that kid. As the old lady asked if he hits women, he brushes her off, and deep down he really wanted to say something else. Now obviously his excuse was very weird, but the lady closes her gap with Megumi, and she began to say hurtful things about her. She asked Megumi if she is mentally unstable and needs a hospital or something, and with a loud and clear voice, he replies to that lady and begs them all for forgiveness and tells them all that they would never come here again. As they walked back home, Megumi was quiet the whole time. As he glances over to her, he remembers the stupid excuse he made for her. The thing was that he didn't want the blame to be put solely on her, and in this way, everyone there pointed their fingers at the two of them. This way, her mental awareness and attachment with him would stay the same. He additionally told her that if he was in her shoes, he would have also hit the kid if he was misbehaving with him. As he kept going on and on, with a weak voice she begins to tear up and tells him how she hates the fact that he had to apologize to everyone there. As he figures out the problem, with a calm and gentle voice he lets her know that in 2 days they would get a shower of their own and wouldn't visit that place in the first place. Back home, Megumi was super gloomy. Gisui was worried if this would become serious, and Megumi kept repeating this over and over again and muttered that she made him lower his head in front of everyone. He analyzed how hazy conclusions like that are signs of desperation. He wanted to make sure that his words might help her understand that there are some things that don't always work. His first step was to make her calm down and not overthink this. He points at the wall and tells her to not force herself, and tells her that she must tell him about anything that bothers her. He sits on his desk, and she starts to talk about those things again, and he spins around and tells her to not talk about it anymore and forget that small accident. He asks her if she is hungry, and started to explain how she should maybe try to calm herself down. She tells him that she would sleep when she feels like it, and the gloomy cloud kept circling around her head. Now it was all up to him to figure something out and shift her attention, so he asks if she brought undergarments and something. This question was something that just drove all the attention instantly, and he asks this especially to even make her believe that this is another question. She replies and tells him that she only brought a few and now needs new meds and more undergarments for herself. She ends up telling him something about a stuffed animal, and as he asked about that, she makes a cute action pose and lets him know that there is a stuffed animal which makes her feel better when she beats the living crap out of it. The next day, he kept working on his manga, and this time he was really pushing himself for this part. He lets her know that he would finish this manga after 3 pages, and then she could read the unedited version. Now, hearing this, Megumi waited like a little child and was ready, but this soon turned into some sort of pressure for him. He asked if she would like to watch TV, and she interrupted him and let him know that she doesn't like watching TV. She adds that she doesn't even like watching news or anything online, and with a sad tone she reflects to him that this all makes her feel left alone in this world, and this way she becomes restless. She ends up asking if Gisui was going to cut his hair or something, and as he reflects that himself, the topic shifts, and he asks about Megumi's hair. She glances at him and again with a dead cold voice she lets him know that long hair doesn't suit someone like her. He asks her for the reason, and she looks the other way and tells him that when she had longer hair, everyone around her made her feel like she was cross-dressing, and this made her feel uncomfortable, inconvenient, and embarrassed about herself. He asked about her things and asked if her clothes and earrings were all her ideas. And she replies that there was a singer that she liked, and she ended up copying his style, and for the pants, she just has pants and nothing else. Gisui now was interested to know if she had skirts, and she asks him if he preferred girls with long hair and skirts. He shakes his head, and Megumi ends up asking him $1 million question. With a cold voice she asks if he hates her face and pointed out that she notices that Gisui never makes eye contact with her. With a shaking voice he lets her know that there are many people in the world who are not good at making eye contact with anyone. He shares his experiences and shares how he feels anxious when he looks people straight in the eyes. He additionally adds a painful secret and reflects on how if he notices people staring at him, and he sees them as well, once they stop looking at him, it makes him feel like he is forgotten. He reminds himself that people like Megumi are the perfect people who stress him out more than anything, and he glances to her side and additionally told her that he is also bad at looking at stuffed animals with realistic eyes. She began to ask if he fears fish and birds, but this list soon grew, and she leaned on him and asked for everything. She wanted to know everything about his secret. And he was sure that she enjoys this a lot. As the time finally came, Megumi had a big wide smile on her face, and Gisui, on the other hand, was just done for the day. As he lets her read the manga, she went on, and just a few minutes into the manga, she begins to cry, and he asks if she liked it, and with a cracking voice she lets him know that she is hurt to know that there is someone like her in the manga suffering from the same painful things that she went through. She cried about people being ignored and treated as if they never existed. And she tells him that it makes her feel like she is not good enough for anyone. He lets her know that there are many books with similar topics, but she replies to him and shares that she has seen some of them, and she doesn't like them at all. It seems like her psychiatrist also helped her develop a rather reactive habit of asking what will happen to the person she resonates with in the manga. She praises his work, and it was clear that she appreciated the work that he did. Now it was time for him to work, and he stretches his back and lets her know that he is out for work and additionally tells her to use the computer if she were to feel bored. He also tells her to sleep if she were to feel sleepy. As he leaves, Megumi passes a gentle smile and sends him off. She even waved him goodbye, and when she sat back, she couldn't believe that there was someone nice like him. As she lets out a happy smile, she was sure that she has found a person that was just meant for her. In 3 days, Gisui managed to crawl into her dark and void-filled heart, and it seemed like his calculated action had really impacted her. She wondered if her life would have been different if he was in school with her, but just as she thinks about this, she ends up remembering a gut-wrenching memory of her school life. There she was sitting all alone at a desk while all her other classmates were enjoying themselves. Now, although this was not true, she ended up imagining if Gisui would also join in with the students and ignore her existence, and as she thinks of this, she begins to have a panic attack. As she gasped for air, she was in a pinch and begging for every bit of air that she could get. While Gisui was busy with his work, he ends up getting a call, and as he picks it up, Megumi replies to him that she doesn't know what is happening to her. As he asks for her well-being, tears overflowed from her eyes, and she calls out to him. And as she placed her hand on her heart, she cries out to him that she is scared. Without any pause, he doesn't end that call and begins to drive toward his house with full speed. He begins to talk to her and made sure to never end the call under any circumstances. He tells her to wipe her tears with a towel that she can find near the closet. As her symptoms about hazy vision and blurry eyes were visible, he kept telling her to drink water, and with a firm voice, he tells her to not end the call no matter what. She tells Gisui that she has drunk the water but nothing happened, and he instructs her to breathe 5 times and then repeat that cycle 3 times. Just as he was saying this, he dashes. Megumi was already crying like never before, and the thought really pained her a lot. He opens the door, and in the next second, she hugs him real tight and doesn't let go. She keeps calling out his name, and Gisui, on the other hand, was just exhausted. He glances over to the table and sees that she did all the things that he told her to do, and as he notices that instead of a towel, she ended up grabbing his boxer, and once he asked her about this, he pats her head and lets her know that there are still some deliveries that he needs to do and would have to leave. Now just as he says this, Megumi glances into his soul, and Gisui knew that there is no way that he can go alone. That day, Megumi clung on to him the whole time, and she asks if they would get in trouble if a cop would find them for doubling on a motorbike, and he gently replies to her that it would be over in 2 hours. The next day was the day when their grand shower was about to come, and Megumi called the seller right after she realized that it was 10:02. Even though it was late a few minutes, she immediately confirmed everything about its timing again. She was very strict with everything that she did. Finally, the graceful shower was attached. They made certain arrangements that it was right near the extra space they had. As he exclaims, he questioned if this was all 30,000 yen. He couldn't believe that the shower was built better than the pictures. Now a few thoughts did approach him, and he reflected on how there are 2 adults and something could happen, but he realized some things are important, and he runs out for something, and after a few minutes, he installed a tall curtain all along the walls for maximum privacy. Megumi adds how this made the room feel smaller, and he lets her know that she can use the bath first. He didn't think of the thing that she could say in return, and as she lets out a questioning phrase, she begins to sniff herself and asked if he was enduring her bad smell all this time and asked if he hates her being smelly. He panics and remembers that since her case is special, he carefully needs to select the perfect words to make sense for her. He tells her that since she bought it, it would be right for her to use it first. Gasue wanted to avoid dangerous situations no matter what, and wanted to create the perfect zone for her. The nice scent of shampoo filled the entire room, and he couldn't wait to try it out as well. Megumi exits the shower all refreshed, and once he joined her as well, they couldn't believe that getting to shower whenever they wanted was so fulfilling and wonderful. She glances at him and apologized for smelling the whole time, and complained how it takes only half a day for dirt and sweat to build up. He asks her if she takes showers multiple times a day, and she adds that she showers in the day, during the day, and when she sleeps, and also when she sweats. Now she lets out a tiny smile. Gasue realized that she showers at least 5 times a day. He tells her about himself as well and added how he showers once a day, and suddenly all the happy atmosphere leaves when she reminded him that she had to shower again and developed this habit because when she was locked in the dog cage, she would reek of pee, and that smell wouldn't leave her. Now hearing this, he just goes mute, and he reminds himself not to panic at such things, and right now he needs to work on tackling her question. Since everything leads to slow poison, he made sure to stay composed and not give her an answer which would feed on her brain. As he was telling her about something else, their doorbell goes off, and without any pause, Megumi tells him that it is pristine transportation. As they open the door, a big threatening-looking box was there, and when Megumi opens it, she ends up bringing out a super beat-up stuffed teddy bear. From one glance at it, it was clear that it went through ages of torture and was barely holding on. As Megumi holds it near Gasue's face, she lets him know that he can also use this to his liking. Gasue asks if she hits this poor stuffed animal, and she replies that it does the job for her, and he tells her that even though it is a stuffed animal, he still feels sorry for it. After this, he begins to draw his manga, and as one of the scenes made her disgusted a bit, she asks if these scenes are something that he enjoys to draw. He replies and tells her that if he were to draw the fetish and things he enjoys, it wouldn't sell. She follows through and questions the type of fetish that he is into. And for a minute he was stunned, and she began to ask if it was too kinky or something. He replies to her and shares that it would not be for her taste, and it would frankly gross her out, but she began to rain question after question. She looks at him with a determined look and tells him that she has a kink for something brutal that would actually really raise questions about her sanity. And as he questions her, she points this out and immediately adds the context and shares how she would actually end everything if that was the case, but added that she likes to see it happen in anime. And she also adds that real-life offenders of physical abuse should be punished with the worst. All her words now were leading towards him, and she deep down was very eager to learn about his kink. He warns her that it would be very gross, and she tells him to be brave now. Now Gasue hesitates for a minute, and in the next second, he mutters something and tells her that he has a kink for smelling a girl's fart. Now as he says this, she goes mute, and as he apologizes, Megumi backs up and falls down. As he asks her if she is okay, she crawls backward, and it was clear that she didn't like his kink whatsoever. As he begins to cry, he tells her that she made him say the worst secret of himself, and Megumi began to say sorry for the next 43 minutes. The next day it was raining like crazy, and he was snoozing, but Megumi was up and was trembling aggressively. As he noticed this, he gets up and asks if she needs a back rub or a hug. She ended up hugging him tight once more and cried for some time. Gasue also shares with us that it has been 2 weeks since Megumi came here. As she hugged him all the way even after calming down, he asks if she is sleepy, and she replies to him that if she falls asleep, he wouldn't be there for her. He adds that he is right next to her, but she tells him that it is different. Gasue updates us on her condition. Megumi is still very afraid to fall asleep before Gasue, and sometimes she was afraid to sleep. As he got up, he checked, and there was nothing to eat for them. Now, he cleverly convinced her to watch a video, and he instructs her that he would be outside for 30 minutes, and she should pick her phone up whenever she hears the ringtone. As she agrees, now he told her about the 30-minute wait, but since Megumi was very strict and anxious about time, Gasue would purposely tell her a different time to make sure that she registered the thought of waiting the time that he told her about. As Super Discount Melons caught his attention, from the back a man greets him and asks about a person who used to work with him. He tells him that there was an accident, and he would need to check up on him. As Gasue agrees, the old man also tells him to watch out for slippery roads. The rain kept pouring, and as he brought back the food and grocery, he tells her that he would use the mobile for a minute. As he confirms the address of his colleague, he tells Megumi that he would visit his friend tomorrow and would need to head out. As he explains everything, Megumi smiles at him, and it already seems like they were a couple of some sort. Later, as he got back to work, and although it seems like Megumi just stares, she had perfectly analyzed everything that he did. She explains to herself about how Gasue first scripts and does the rest of the good stuff later. Now, as she thought of these things, sad and painful memories always managed to creep out as well. She remembers how her classmates treated her the worst. As she was cornered by everyone, one of the girls asks her if she wants to tell them something. As she was about to say something, the other girl begins to mock her and started to call her a nutcase. There was a problem, and Megumi was so painfully cornered by her classmates that she remembers this moment better than anyone. As that girl left, other students began to call her names and told her to get a translator to communicate, and called her names like psycho and other hurtful things. That day Megumi punched that girl, but later she did something worse to herself, and as her mother took care of her, her father patted his dog and told her in a cold and dead voice that he can't keep a watch on Megumi and tells her that she can do whatever she wants. The next thing that he said was so painful that it killed the life in her eyes. Her father tells her that if she wants to end everything, then she should just do it. He swore and reflects on how he doesn't care and doesn't know the reason for her actions. As she remembers this, tears begin to overflow, and Gasue immediately leans near her and asked if she remembered something. As she sniffed, she cried out that she always wanted to be a normal person, but she was the only one who couldn't speak with anyone, and no one cared to listen to anything that she wanted to say. She cried out and exclaimed about how the entire class would take their turns to take their anger out on her and just treat her the worst. He pats her head one more time and reminds her that whatever happens in life, it is always not certain and is never in anyone's hand. As he comforts her, he lets her know that understanding your own pain is a talent that introverts like them are best at. As he shares this wonderful thing with her, she nods, and it seemed like she understands some of the things that he said, and she grabs his hand and places it near her cheek. As she rests on his palm, in the next second, she asks him if she can change her underwear to feel better, and Gasue reminds her that she is just weird. As he began to work again, they were returning home after buying a traditional chair, and from the back, two of his friends end up greeting him. As one of the dudes questioned if Gasue is still living in that dump of his, with a weak voice Gasue replies yes, and that other dude begins to share how people would move into a better place to bring home their girlfriends, and as he belittled him, Gasue's senior ends up stepping inside the battlefield and tells that loudmouth that if his girlfriend is hanging around at his place, then it must all be her choice, and added how it is Gasui's preference for inviting his girlfriend to his personal space and home. As Megumi hears this sharp reply, that loud dude complains about him being all serious in jokes. As Gasui's senior asked if he is going to visit, they advise him to take some melon, or even some banana. As Megumi herself praises Gasui's senior, he had thought that maybe she is starting to understand people, but she adds and tells him that she still doesn't like him. As he heard her talk about him, they continued on. Just as they were walking, Megumi ends up seeing a moth, and she screams. Gasui flinches from this, and as he glances back, Megumi was too scared to even move. After the poor moth left, Megumi exclaims and tells him how she was scared, but Gasui himself was just as scared as she was. Her scream just kept circling around his head. They slowly made their way home, and both were tired, but just as he was about to open the door, there was a small centipede crawling. Now Gasui was just terrible at handling crawling bugs, so he hesitated for a minute, but Megumi, on the other hand, slams her foot on the insect, and in the next second, she kicks it far away from the door. She tells Gasui to unlock the door, but as he glares at his robot girlfriend full of surprises, she lets him know that crawling bugs are easier to predict than the ones with wings. As he realized that the time with her would only sink him deep into an abyss as well, Part 2 ends. Now time heals them, and soon, Megumi declares a condition to live. She tells Gasui that as long as he lives, she would not think of anything else. As she also learned to respect the speechless animals, she begins to experience warm treatment from Gasui. Although there are times when she took her anger out on the teddy, we also hear about the time when Megumi had a boyfriend who tried to just do something to her.